Wildman and get the most.
We're on. I've been just literally eagerly excited for this all morning, all week. After we did the first episode, I basically was just overjoyed watching it, looking at it, hearing about it from people all week. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Gosh, the Unshakable Lifestyle podcast gets me excited.
Same. It is really moving for a lot of the viewers just reaching out. They said that it was really impactful. And I know that a lot of people that don't even watch or listen to podcasts listen to ours, and they said like they're looking forward to the next. So it's very touching, you know.
It is, man. I had a bunch of people, and like the natural insight right away is like, are you going to try to make a bunch of money from this, or are you going to try to get a bunch of advertising? You're trying to get 1 million views. You're trying to do this, like maybe 1 million views, but like, yeah, I literally no money orientation. Like I've just been excited for this all week. Like all week, I've just been like, I want it to be Saturday. I want it to be Saturday. Like I mean, all morning, Archie just saw me bouncing off the wall working on our IT stuff because I'm just like so excited. Let's do this.
Seriously, it's beautiful, and it's like I love too how we've created the format of like it's a hybrid between interview style and just bros hanging out.
Yeah, man.
And not to say that there won't be females on here too, but it's just like everybody just chilling and masterminding, you know?
Yeah, I think that there's something to that element. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like when we do it a lot, obviously we have our own coffee groups, we have our own meetings. We've been doing this for years off of the web with these same people. So it's just like, I mean, can't tell you how many conversations we've had, like at this dining table or at a meeting at your house or somewhere where I'm like, yeah, why didn't we record that?
Yeah,
that was so good.
That would have been so lit.
We could have helped millions of people. This was so good. But
seriously.
Yeah. But before they hop on, I know this, like, I've had this subject on my mind. I wanted your opinion. I know I posted somebody yesterday. I have just been, I don't want to say like in like a melancholy towards it, but I have just been like really, really missing bodybuilding for me. And I know like you, obviously you're not a bodybuilder, you had wrestling, but like, I don't think people truly understand the psychology or like how difficult it is sometimes post-sport. Like post-sport, like you spend your whole life doing something, you're focused on it, you watch the levels climb, you watch the way that you climb within that. And then like for you, it was your accident caused like the injury, which you obviously came back from, but like maybe never all the way as much as you wanted.
Sure didn't.
And then like, but then it's over. You know, you graduate college, or in my case, like I had some health problems that took me away from bodybuilding. And, you know, it's not like it ends slowly. It's just like all done.
Yeah. And you know, like, I would say too, like one beautiful thing about it, the opportunity in it is that actually exists for almost every single older adult that there is. Yeah. Because they can't do the things that they once did. And then their purpose and everything, because it was results driven or based into that one thing in their identity, they lose it. So one thing that I love for you and I, right? Like I'm not pursuing the NCAA championship anymore. No. Yet I do get the opportunity and the chance to work along wrestlers, people playing basketball, whatever the sport is. And then also like people that just want to enhance their lifestyle, like championships in life, right? To where their relationship with themselves, with God, with others, and their emotional, like all these types of things becomes a 10 out of 10. Dude.
Yes.
That to me, 100%. It's just like, whoa. But it's hard to find the purpose and the fulfillment within other people's victory as opposed to your own.
Oh yeah. And luckily like we get to do like I have clients who are like, I mean, we both work in the same, like we both work with people sometimes who are so far gone where it's like, you know, their goal is not like, I want to do 150 push-ups. Like their goal is like, I haven't been able to like live without pain in 5 years. Like, like
Right.
every second hurts.
Gosh.
Everything I do hurts. And then when
Yeah.
you see that being alleviated, it is this like blessing you get to help them with. And like, I like what you said, like everybody has their own version of that. Everybody's living some version of that.
Yeah.
And give me 1 second. My phone is going to vibrate a million times just because I don't want it to.
What an opportunity.
But what an opportunity. Everybody wants to get opportunities from me right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been on my mind so much. I've been working with some of my young bodybuilders. I spend time with them and I'm watching them and I can feel like envy. I was like, oh, and I was telling them, I felt like a football coach in a movie. I'm like, enjoy this,
cherish
now.
it.
Don't nourish it. Don't leave it behind.
It will be gone someday.
Yeah. It's like, but like, you don't know, like, it can be as simple as an injury. It can be as simple as you graduate college. It can be as simple as anything. And it doesn't have to be sporting. It could be your job, your career, your business. It could be so many things.
Right.
And the thing it really just sets them tone for me is like how freaking important the journey is. Because you look back and there's so many times that I'm sure you do with like wrestling, because the same thing, like wrestling and bodybuilding, in my opinion, are two of some of the hardest sports in the world. So when you're in the moment, sometimes you're like, man, I don't want to go do that, man. It's so hard. You're waking up at the crack of dawn. You have to go do some of the hardest workouts and the hardest diets and the hardest things. And now that it's over, I'm sure I consume myself, but like for you, man, I would give anything to go back to a week of that.
And to have the knowledge that you have now to go back in time and do what you did then. Cause it's like, we figured out so much more stuff. It's like, dude, if I knew what I knew now, like
I tell people, Jenna's literally asked me, she's like, if you could go back, like, would it be different? I'm like, oh my Lord.
Yes.
Everything. Like when I was young and I was like PR and benches every week. And like, I'm like, no, don't do that. Like all the lack of mobility movement and the lack of health care sometimes. Like back in the day, there was a time period when before I was a nutrition specialist where like, as long as it had protein in it, I assumed it was good.
The unawareness.
I'm like eating peanut butter out of the jar. I'm like, this is protein. I'm healthy.
I'm doing good. I didn't even know what macros were, you know?
It's just interesting. I just like, if anybody's watching this and they're listening, like, I don't care if it's your business you're building. I don't care if it's your marriage you're building. I don't care if it is your hobby, your sport, anything. Like, enjoy the fuck out of the journey, because you never know when the journey is going to be passed, and you might be in the result of it, which is awesome. I love the results of what I did, but there's going to be a point where you're going to be there and you're not going to be able to just go back, and you're not going to be able to, you can't do something for the first time again.
Well, look at it too. Like, so there's the could have and should have talk, right? And I'm I am helping people get rid of this feeling of shoulding on themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
No. You could have, and that would have been more effective. And that's okay. And now the fact that you have the could have and what would have been more effective, you can take that to so many people that are in that season of their life. Like, mother, father, what an opportunity.
Yeah. People, like said,
it gets me excited.
It is exactly that, though. It's like Jenna asked me when I had a conversation with her about this the other day. She goes like, if you could go back, would you change it though? Like, would you go back and make those changes? I'm like, no, like, because like, though, things come to an end, though, maybe I made wrong decisions, though this and that, like the knowledge I gained, where I am in life right now, like I wouldn't take any of it back. Even if there's things I might've liked, I'm not going to take those things back.
100%.
So, I love
it. Can't. That's the thing too. It's like
you can't also.
A lot of people. I know. I hate saying can't, but when it comes to past, that's it. And so it's like, dude, if you look at a situation and how it could have or could not have been different, it's like either way. Like no matter what. Like let's say you and I go do Fox Hill or Matea Park.
Yeah,
we go do that, and whatever the experience is, we make it amazing, right? We can never have that exact experience ever again.
Yeah.
Like that is a cherished moment forever. And we can do it the next weekend, but it is a new experience. And I think a lot of people too, like I've done like relationships, counseling, just consultation and coaching to where they were getting upset because they had an experience with somebody else. And I'm like, man, but the good thing is that no experience is ever the same.
Yeah.
So for the male that was a little jealous, like, dude, hey, she gets to have the experience with you now, and you're going to make it the best ever, right?
Better than she ever had.
Yeah.
Ever. All of it. You're the man. You are. Gosh,
amen.
Look at this handsome face.
Look at Tyler, just right on time, 12 o'clock.
Gosh, he grew the beard out while he was in Colorado snowmobiling just because he had to stay warm.
What a tank. What's up, brother?
Yes, I did. Yeah, Colorado was awesome.
I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. Tell me about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, just a couple of buddies. Like we've been trying to plan a trip out there for probably 6 months since last summer, and we said we wanted to actually go four-wheeling, and just things didn't line up, and so we said we are gonna make it go snowmobiling, and so we coordinated, and we had 6 guys kind of go out there to Colorado and onto the gorgeous mountains right up there, and
Wow.
we had like 1 bar of signal, so you kind of had to be detached from your phone for a little bit. And there's like one day, like the first day, we had to do this, like went up this hill climb, and it was probably like 700 feet tall, just like the cliff of a mountain. And we get to the top, and like you can just have a 360-degree view of just like you're on like, it was amazing. It was just like seeing God's earth there, just all his creation. And you just don't see very many people out there. And it's like, man, how many times do you have the opportunity to literally sit on top of the world and just like look out for 50 miles? And it was completely clear. And it was just like, wow, God's nature is just amazing and what he's able to create for us.
What was the elevation you were at there, Tyler?
I think we're about 12.5.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Fun.
Me and Jenna.
So, I mean, we're sitting there. I mean, you're breathing hard. You're like, whew, man, God, this is amazing.
That's
I
what
can't breathe.
That's what I was just going to say. Me and Jenna went to Colorado. We road tripped out there, and we stayed up in the Rocky Mountains for a little while, and we went up to 12 or 13,000. And I remember at a certain point, like you have to adjust to it. But like, I remember even Jenna starting to panic almost, because it's just like you can't catch your breath. The air is so thin up there. I mean, it's like, It was a cool feeling, but I wouldn't wish to stay up there. Definitely like let's step up there and step back down. There he is. Can you hear us, Jordan?
Yeah.
What up? What up?
What's up, stud? Where
up,
are you
guys?
on your way to?
I'm on the way home from showing a duplex to a guy who's looking to live in it and rent out the other side so we can live for free.
Beast.
I love it.
Can't wait to dive into that stuff.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm happy to jump in with that.
Yeah, I like it. But like I said, like you said, Tyler, what Tyler was just talking about being out in Colorado, but like I said, when I was out there, when you go up at the top of the Rocky Mountains and you're looking, like it is, I love views. We all like views. Every human loves a good view, but man, those views there specifically, I've only been there once, but when we were up on top of the Rocky Mountains, I remember just being like, I could sit there all day. Like I remember being like, I could park a chair here and stare at this all day because it was so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, we're talking too, like just of like how much of an artist God is, right? Like when you're standing at the top of something like that or whatever it is, it's like so vast. It's like, wow, an artist made this, you know?
I love it.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's so cool because the more you travel, you get to see different parts of the country. And it's so amazing just seeing the diversity that like God's created on earth. Like you've got the gorgeous mountains, and then you can be next to the lake and a beach or on the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, just looking at all these fish, like, wow, this is just so incredible and so beautiful and warm. And then you can go next to like a stream or a creek or something like that. And it's like, wow, this is just so cool. Just how it's just this little piece of package water just flowing there, and then just the ecosystem that's around it. I mean, you got the little fish in there, and then you got all the deer that come up to the creek to get a drink of water. Wow. And it's just kind of cool, like Derrek was saying, just sitting and just watching there.
Yeah, I like what you said about leaving your phone behind, because like me and Jenna, we go with a group of friends. We're gonna go again this year. We go every year to this cabin. It's down in North Carolina. It's like super remote. It's on this private mountain, so there's like no reception really. There's nothing that you can get to. You have to like buy your groceries 2 hours away and bring them with you minimum, because there's nothing. It's just nothing. Like you die up there, you get a heart attack up there, you're gone. Like there's nothing. But you go up there and like no phones, no Wi-Fi, no tech. I mean, there's lights at the house, obviously, but just nothing besides like classic technology for a week. And you're breaking out board games. And like, I'm going to continue doing it every year, because something about the disassociation with the technology for that week, I swear it charges my batteries. It charges my mind up on a scale. I think people don't realize how down-regulated they are because of the technology that we have all the time. And I can't talk crap. Obviously, we're on it right now, and this is making this possible. So that's beautiful. But I do think everybody should have like a week a few days, something where they go hiking, camping, cabin, something, and just leaving the phone in the glove box for like 3 days. It'll change like your perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely like a beautiful reset, right? And that's one thing I noticed. I went to the highest peak in New Mexico when I was out there, Wheeler's Peak. It's about 13,000. And bro, like the night before, I had a sinus infection and everything. And I was like, well, I'm still going to camp out and I'm going the next day. And we did. And bro, it's crazy. It's as if the mountain healed me at the top. Like I still was sick, but at the top, it just felt different. And I was like rejuvenated. And it's cool too, to like talk about the resetting of technology. So I had the balance where I still was recording a lot of different moments. And I'm so glad that I did, because I can like reminisce and look back on all of those. Like there was this crazy ice thing down, and we literally just jumped it and freaking flew down the side of the mountain. Still alive, praise God. But like that's just the beauty of it, is where like there were times where I was just off my phone for sure. But I do think that there's something about not getting the dopamine and the different neurotransmitters stimulated to where you can really reset for at least a day. So I love and appreciate that.
The dopamine reset is crazy, because it's like giving yourself that break. And then like you find that like when you have that constant dopamine surge, sometimes it's like you're not happy with simple things. And then like I said, we're like when you're playing these games and you don't have the dopamine for a few days, like you win a game of Uno and you're just like, yeah, it's like you're just like you're eating dinner and you're cooking dinner with like the fam and everybody's there, and it's like everything's beautiful. Everything gets way more beautiful when you don't have this constant gratification in your face all the time.
Amen.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
It's beautiful.
But how's everything going for you too? You're flipping a duplex to a guy, and then the guy's buying it so that he can turn it into his own investment property, because he's going to move someone on the other side and live for free.
So yeah, this one specifically, I am helping a retail client potentially purchase. So I don't actually own it myself. But you know, he's a really cool dude. He owns a single family home, and he's realized, man, like I have to pay this mortgage on this house. And it's just really, truly real estate, you know, it's kind of a common misnomer, but most people think like just by owning real estate, it's an asset. Well, yes, technically it is, but also on the other side of that, it's technically a liability as well. You know, if you just live in a primary residence and you're not using the equity to go make more money with other properties, you're just literally paying to live there, paying for the maintenance, all of the expenses to own it. It's technically costing you money every month, right? And so one of the great strategies of house hacking is, you know, you can buy an owner occupant 2 to 4 unit property and do it for very little money down. And, you know, because typically you're having to put 20 to 25% down to buy an investment property if you're financing it. With this, you can use an FHA loan and do 3.5% down, which is just significantly less money out of pocket. Another great little hack, like if you actually plan to be a real estate agent and use that as a source of active income for yourself, when there's a property that's on market, you can represent yourself as the buyer, and you can actually make a commission, which will basically pay your whole down payment. So those are cool little hacks to basically get an investment property for no money.
I knew about the first house hacking one, where you're obviously like you move in, you flip it, you get the FHA loans, so you get cheaper down payments. But I never knew that you could represent yourself as the buyer. That's awesome.
Absolutely. On any real estate transaction that's listed on the market, you can represent yourself as the buyer's agent. So it's kind of a cool little hack as an agent.
Man, Jordan, you're a pretty good test taker. Have you created any resources to help realtors that pair up with you to take that test? Because maybe you know, Derek and I need to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's actually a lot of really great resources out there. Prep Agent on YouTube is a fantastic resource. I can definitely send some if you want some links to post relevant, but it's actually pretty easy to become a real estate agent. It's like $1,500 and a 90-hour course, which you can do online. You can do in person. I personally do better with in person, but if you've been through college and you know you're effective at studying and you're good at self-pacing yourself, then I would just do it online. It'd be way quicker. But for me, I did not make it through college, and I loathe schoolwork. So doing it in person definitely helped for me personally.
Yeah, I wish I would have done it in person because I did do real estate school. Seth talked me into doing it like 3 years ago, and I
Nice.
went through getting everything done. And the way I got through it, which is just my horrible interaction, because I also hate schooling, was I basically was like just going to the quizzes and then just like trying to ram through them as quickly as I can. And if I failed, I just do it over and over and over again until I passed. And what happened was that's really, really smart in a stupid way, because the stupid part is that when I got to the end and you have to take the actual exam that you don't get to just retest a million times, I had no knowledge.
Right.
I didn't gain anything along the way. Like I wasn't taking the time to learn. I wasn't taking the time to bring the information in. I was just like, how can I get this certificate in my hand tomorrow? And then I never ended up going back through the course to get the knowledge. So I have my own unfinished real estate course.
I've
Nice.
personally met so many people that have taken the state test, anywhere from 5 to 10 times, which sucks because you have to pay for it every single time you take it. So it's like, yeah, if you can just focus on that 90-hour course, and at least really get a decent understanding. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I definitely am not trying to take over the whole call and talk about real estate, but doing the real estate class to become a realtor does not actually teach you how to become a good agent. They really just teach you basic real estate law and how to not get sued. They teach you a little bit about the contracts. They teach you about how deed rights work, like air rights, mineral rights, those sorts of things. But in all actuality, probably about 5 to 10% of it is actually effective when you're actually selling real estate. The rest of it, it's truly becoming an entrepreneur and learning how to run a business. Like all of us here, own businesses. It's a whole nother world. I mean, I think that, when you're an entrepreneur, even as an agent, like all it does is put a magnifying glass onto who you are as a human being. So like the things that you're exceptional at, like your best redeeming traits, can make you world class and generate significant amounts of income, great impact, change the world. And also on the other side of that, the things that are your opportunities, like if you have limiting beliefs about yourself, they can cost you so much in your business every single day and keep you from really that greatness that God does have inside of you. So it's a wonderful journey to go through. It's very terrifying, scary, it absolutely can be, but it's also really beautiful, because if you can succumb to how powerful the process is of becoming who God has called you to be, you can just really get a deep understanding of who you are and ultimately like what you're here to do, how you're here to give. And, as I love how Jimmy says, love God and love others. I think the entrepreneurial journey allows for such an exploration of that.
So Jordan, with your, I think you're really good at connection and interpersonal relationships, but maybe in the beginning of your real estate realtor journey, you didn't have the business part down. So like, what was that like for you? And then I'd love to ask Tyler kind of the similar question with the commercial real estate and like your engineering and that kind of duality too.
Well, so it's interesting for me. I kind of got into the way I got into real estate. It was like a fire hose just shoving water onto me as hard as I could, because, in my first full year of being a real estate agent, I went from working at Costco, pushing shopping carts, selling memberships, doing whatever the heck they needed me to do, trying to get promoted, not getting there. No matter what I did, I just, this willpower thing of trying to go and get better in life, realizing that it was all predicated on what somebody else thought of me, or when they thought I was ready, or if it fit into their agenda. And when I got into real estate, like all those barriers were gone. It was immediately whatever I choose, like I can do, and there are no more limits. And so my first year as an agent, I did 57 deals as a single agent, no assistant, no team, no transaction coordinator. So which is crazy, because it's already a lot to try to manage a client, to help even getting them to the point of being ready to put in an offer and then getting an offer accepted. It's a whole nother process to then go from pending to close. There's so many things that can cause deals to fall through, like inspections, appraisals, survey problems, deed problems. I mean, there's just so many things, emotions. I mean, you have to learn how to manage all those things. And when you stack up multiple deals together, I mean, I remember one month I had 20 pending deals at once. And it's where I really started to learn how important the 4 categories are, how there's like 4 boxes here. There's important and urgent, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important. Because I didn't know how to manage all that, and I didn't know how to leverage other people's skills, like having a transaction coordinator that handled that pending to close process. My entire year was literally just stuck in important and urgent because it was just handling fires all the time. And so you end up living in this reactionary, not proactive life. And I gained a lot of weight. I weighed the most I'd ever weighed in my entire life. I almost lost my relationship. And I ultimately realized, like, you're never truly balanced in life. You're always balancing, right? Because there are times in your life where you have to focus on spinning one plate a little bit faster than maybe the other ones. But you can't like ever stop at least spinning the important ones, because if they crash and fall, like, was this one even actually really worth it? So it's interesting. There's just this balancing. Another way that I've heard it referred to is you have glass balls and rubber balls that you're always juggling. And, you can be tossing them, but you never want to drop the glass ones, which would be like your most intimate relationships and, things like that. But like something that's not as important, that would be considered like a rubber ball. It will bounce back, So like really focusing on the things that matter. It's definitely taught me a lot from going through all those struggles and trying to figure out how the hell to manage all that.
Yeah, I love that. I love the glass ball, rubber ball thing. I've never thought of it that way, but it's like perfect. Cause like we talk about a lot, like I think a lot of times in business, we talk about like managing money. Like people think it's the ultimate thing we do is we learn how to manage money, or we learn how to manage all business skills. We learn how to manage all this. And like you said, with these people and things, like what we master in our field is relationships. We master how to handle relationships. It's how we do better with our clients, how we do better with our business. And I think like one of the biggest struggles sometimes in business is like which relationships you need to be putting your time into. Because like I know there's been times where my wife had to take the back burner, and it's something I'm not proud of. It's not something I love. It's one of the worst things I have to do sometimes, but she luckily selfless enough to accept it. But then other times, that means that she has to become the front burner. And, being able to mentally set the things aside that I know maybe I want to do or I need to be doing with the business to do that. Like you said, the balancing that can be really, really difficult. But I love that analogy, because as long as you keep the glass balls flowing, I mean, you can always pick the rubber balls back up. They'll always bounce back up. But I love that.
Amen. It's resiliency to each ball. The glass one doesn't have very much. Let's switch gears a little bit to hear about Tyler's experience, like on the business, the glass balls and the rubber balls, like the business growth versus your personal growth on like you being an engineer, right? And then also like finding that you even were called to more.
Yeah.
Just like the cat was called to, the podcast.
Sorry, guys. She's in. Get off the table.
Yeah, so my journey was a little bit different than Jordan. So I actually had an engineering background, so I was working as an engineer, and then I've always kind of had a passion in real estate. I've always thought it was something that really, really cool that I wanted to do ever since a kid. And so I decided I was going to go down the commercial route, just because that's a little more fits kind of my attitude and just kind of my being of I'm an introvert. And so business to business transactions are a whole lot easier to deal with than having emotional transactions, because I like to remove the emotion away, especially as an engineer. And so kind of going down that journey, I was doing engineering and then also buying commercial real estate at the same time. In the beginning, it wasn't too bad, because like you don't know what you don't know yet. And when you only have a couple properties to manage, it's a whole lot easier, and you can do that whole juggling. It's real easy. You've only added a couple balls here and there. But like Jordan, he was talking about processes. I mean, as you start adding more and more tenants, I think it was around once we hit about 20 tenants, the juggling becomes a little bit heavier. And so like at that point, you kind of get the glimpse of like, hey, I think I can make this my full-time job at some point in the future. And so I was putting in a ton of hours of work in there where I'd go to my 9-to-5 job is actually 7 to 4. And then like from 4 to 6, I'd work on real estate. And then like your personal relationships kind of take in some of that after effect. And so relationships kind of struggled there. And I really like to kind of take walks because that's kind of my way that I can meditate and think to myself. And so I was just taking like several walks on a nice spring and fall day. It was over several month period, but it was kind of thinking like, well, this isn't really the journey that I'm looking for. Like I'm not being fulfilled. I love the real estate, but the day job just isn't fulfilling me as much as I would like it to. And so after about 4 years, I was finally able to get away from the W-2 job and do full-time real estate and really focus on the business, and just kind of grow more of that personal relationship side. And a lot of it's a big journey of just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. And a lot of it was like figuring out what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were. Because I started finding that the more you focus on your strengths, that seems to like grow the business faster. And then you'll find somebody else that their strength is your weakness. And then that's when you start getting things that mesh together where 1 + 1 = 3. And then that's when kind of the magic starts to happen, is because you start stacking on other people's strengths and other people's abilities on top of your own. And then that's really kind of when it becomes a business rather than a side hobby.
You get me pumped, Tyler. Get me pumped.
I love it. I had a question for you, because like something that always helped me, and this is for both of you guys, and for Jimmy too, is one thing that always helped me, because I struggled at first of the idea of leaving my day job behind to do my own business. Because it's a scary thing. I got a wife, I got a house, I got all these things that I'm responsible for. But one thing I came to the conclusion to, and I say it to people all the time who are trying to get on this journey, is like the worst case scenario, the absolute worst case scenario. Do you think, Jordan, that Costco would have never taken you back and you could have done the exact, like, Tyler, do you think that engineering firm would have just been like, screw you, you're not good? People don't understand that the worst case scenario to this dream, this goal, this thing that they want, is to go back to doing exactly what they're doing right now for the same amount of money they're doing right now. It's like, and when you can understand that, for anybody who's listening, who's like thinking about starting a business, like if the worst case scenario is what you're in, then maybe you should think about trying some things. Because like, I don't think it's random that we all have these passions, these pursuits. I don't think it's random that Tyler's sitting here saying it didn't fulfill me. I think that there is a plan for your life. I think there's a journey you're meant to be on. And I think the reason you have that incentive in your head is the calling. It's divine. It's this thing that's calling you to do the things you want. And even sometimes when the road crumbles underneath people and their life goes to crap, they still stay at that job, that thing. Like when everything is screaming at them, like, get away, go do the thing you want. Like they fear it. They don't want to leave it. And obviously I know you guys both did it. So like, do you guys agree with that circumstance? What is your guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna just
I mean, I had that exact same thought of like, you have the emotion side and then you also have like logic side. And so it's a constant battle between emotion and logic is what I found. And like the emotional me would be like, man, you quit your job, like that's just life, like everything's done. And then like logically, like you were saying, it's just like, no, like my wife had an engineering job and I had an engineering job. And so I was like, okay, if I quit mine, like she'd still have hers, we'll still have the rental income, and I get to focus more time on building the business, which should bring in additional income. And I also had a coworker that quit, started his own company. Something happened, and like 2 months later, he came back and he got a bigger raise. And so I'm like, all right, well, that's just it. Like, we're doing this. Worst case scenario is you get a raise out of it.
That's awesome.
And it ended up kind of working a little differently. I quit my job, and then my wife quit her job like 3 months later. And it's been the best deal ever since.
Beautiful.
Here's what I'll say. I was fighting so hard to get promoted. And because I knew that I was meant for more. One of the things Ed Milet says, you were meant to do something great with your life because you have greatness inside of you. You know, I am a firm believer that, you know, we are all God's children created from God, right? We have a duty to become what we're called to become. What was I going to say? Crap, I lost it.
I mean, you're just talking about like how greatness is everyone's heritage, right? And how you were called to that. So with Costco.
Well, I just think it's so easy to feel stuck in, you know, if you're in a job and you're surrounded with people that have that same limited mindset. If you come from a limited mindset, you're all, I mean, Jimmy, what's the statistic? How many times are you told no as a kid versus yes?
146,000.
Yeah, compared to like 3,000 times saying yes.
Compared to anywhere from 300 to 3,000 yeses.
I mean, so we are just fully conditioned to play small in our lives.
Wow.
In all aspects. Your environment absolutely dictates your future. The privilege is you get to create the environment. If you live truly from a place of I am responsible for my life and everything that happens to me happens for me, not against me or whatever, like this real true duality of responsible versus being a victim. You have to take 100% ownership, accountability, and ownership of your life. Your life is truly the culmination of the decisions and environment that you cultivated, right? And so if you feel like I just can't get out of this job, I don't know what to do, then get around people that will give you the permission, because it's okay. You know, if you feel stuck, it's okay to listen to somebody that says, hey, you're meant for more. Go freaking achieve it. That's something that happened to me. I knew that I had to get out of, you know, just working a W-2 job, basically in a grocery store, making freaking $14, $15 an hour, making 30, 40 grand a year, because I knew that that was never going to allow me to have the impact and lifestyle that I wanted. And so I started, you know, I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I really believe is a foundational book that every single human being should read, because it teaches you about financial literacy and the importance of getting out of the rat race, which is fully what I grew up in. I personally watched my parents slave themselves to the bone, working just to pay off their debt, to continue living, to pay off their debt, and living in this endless cycle, and, you know, and starting over in their 50s. And I knew, and I thank God every day that, like, you know, I got to learn what not to do. You know, again, your life truly happens for you. You can't always control the events that happen. You absolutely get to control what the story or the frame that you choose to create is from that.
Yeah.
And so by the grace of God, you know, doing research, really starting to learn about real estate investing, joined a local real estate group and met my managing broker. I put myself out there, you know, and, you know, the law of vibration, like if you put it out, it will come back. Law of reciprocity. And so from that point, she was like, dude, you have like the perfect personality to be a real estate agent. I really think you should do that. And that was just somebody giving me permission to step into what I'm called to be, you know. And from that point, now we became millionaires in 2 years. And now, like, we can live whatever life we want to live. Like, I can go leave tomorrow and just travel if I wanted to, and know that I've got people to handle my stuff here. I could never have dreamt to have done that before. That's what being self-employed allows you. It's not that you want to stay there forever. You know, like one of the things that I learned from Kent Clothier, he's a very high level real estate guy and business coach, but he said, your biggest responsibility in your life is to go from being a hustler to being a CEO. You need to know that if you shut your phone off for 2 months, that your business is going to continue to grow. Otherwise, you own a job, or the business owns you. And so, like, I've really resonated with that a lot. Like, there's these kind of stages that you go through. Like, you start to become self-employed, you know, start going down the journey, start doing self-improvement, and realizing that you are the greatest return on investment you will ever make. But in that process, if you always are the only funnel that all of your business comes through, like, you are stuck in a job in a way. Even if it's a very high income producing job, everything has a cost, right? And so if you don't start to transition into that CEO role, you know, you're not able to be as present in the other aspects of your life as you'll want to. Like, that's why you see people that are extremely rich and wealthy that are miserable.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jimmy could, I mean, me and Jimmy can both say we're almost kind of in that in that beginning stage of what you're talking about. Cause I know me and Jimmy are both bringing on staff. We're both bringing on employees, coaches below us, things like that. And I will say that, you know, like in my head, and you probably both, Tyler, and you already learned this, but I remember being like, the second they start, it's going to be so much easier. I love it. And what I found is like, now I got 2 jobs because I got to do my job. And then I got to every time they do something, I have to kind of do it over again, not because it's wrong, but I got to make sure it's good enough. I got to be teaching them. I got to be training them. So it's like the adding employees at first, you're like, oh, this is going to make everything easy. And you're like, oh no, wait, now I have to work 4 times as hard to make this work. But obviously it's going to be worth it. One thing that you said that I really, really like, gosh, my brain's going to do this just because I went to go say it. Well, you were talking about,
there was environment. There was,
sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. You were talking about your mother and how she works off the bone. She's older. This is something I see in my family a lot. And sorry, I wrote a note while I was here. I was trying to find it in my notes. But I see it in my family too. I have these people in my family. They're 60 and they're just like working and then just have no plan to get out of it. And, you know, they're desperate and you feel horrible for them. Cause like, I can't imagine being in a position that where I'm like, I've spent my entire life working. There's not necessarily a lot to show for it. There's like, obviously your life, your family, things like that, but like, not like this abundance you expect. And the craziest thing is the other part you said is 2 years to a millionaire. And then like for Tyler, I'm not going to put his story out of context. I'm not sure, but I think it's somewhere around the same range of time, like, you know, like 3 or 4 years. Right, Tyler?
Yeah, I think somewhere around there.
Yeah. So it's like
Probably 3.
I talk about it with people all the time, and whether it's fitness, whether it's, you know, money, with all these things, everyone always imagines like it's way over there. It's way over there. And that's like, it's going to take 20 years to get there. But the truth is like people do not understand how powerful they are. They have no understanding. And it's because they're trapped in these boxes. So they don't see their potential. And then once they get out of it, like, you know, you're not 6 years from a 6-pack. You're 4 months. Like, you know, you're not 6 years from having enough money to live on your own. You're a year. Like, you know, you're not 6, 10, 20 years from $1 million. You're 2 years away. Like, and if people could just understand this, I wish I could, sometimes you want to grab people and you want to shake their head and you want to, oh, just understand. Like, but like, it's just because I love them so much. I'm like, come on, do it. Right. Like, even if you're 60 and you want to have a 6-pack, or if you want to be rich, or you want to do any of these things, or just comfortable, like it's not forever away. I mean, it's baffling to me. And I can't imagine hitting the end of my life and going, man, I wish I could have done all that stuff. There's no reset button.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you just got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And I think, and Tyler, you said you went from engineering to some residential properties first, correct? And then you went to commercial?
No, I went straight from engineering into commercial. Never really did any residential properties.
So big question, Jimmy. So Jimmy, I'm the only one here who doesn't own real estate, though I've been working with real estate guys and hosting a real estate group for like 3 years. Makes no sense. But it's coming. I'm planning. I'm decisive. But Jimmy's got Airbnbs, and then Tyler's got his warehouses, his industrial properties, things like that. Jordan, it sounds like you have investment properties, more the residential side of things. So from someone who is, let's just take me, not in any of them yet, has the money to jump into them and is looking, my initial thought is I should put my money into maybe commercial, because though there might be higher risk, the reward is much higher. And once you lock yourself into those triple net leases with the 4 and 5 years, the 10 years possibly, that it's going to be a lot better outcome. What do you three all think about an idea like that? Start with you, Jimmy. Let's ask you.
Yeah, no, I think that's one thing for me, like, is scaling. Because I know my niche right now is doctorate student rentals. So I just get them in there, and they're 1 year to 3 years of a lease, really. And it's great. There's been some opportunities and hiccups with character building with some of my rentals, and students that miscommunication happened, and glory to God, like, I get to take that and get better for the next. But I do realize, like, okay, one property makes $16,000 a year. Whereas if I had commercial real estate, the management that might be similar, might be more at first because of the learning curve, but the rewards sound like it could be much higher. I don't know what the numbers are because I don't have any yet. Notice I said yet. Like that's the beautiful part, is like we can scale and like find ways to do it. And Derek, like I'm just gonna give the spotlight to you here too, because like you are so awesome. You and Tyler, like we literally have this story. You're on the podcast right now, and like Tyler's like, well, I don't know which ones to get. Tyler's like, I'll freaking tell you which ones to get. Well, I don't have enough money. The bank will give you money. It's like just every time that like our negative programming comes up to make us stay comfortable, right? Or safe. Like we have awesome people in our lives, like Tyler, like Jordan, like Derek, to where we can actually sharpen each other. Like, no, bro, that's bullcrap. That's your BS right now. You're fine. We can do it. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so it's like urgency. Like, come on.
Yeah, Tyler, I always say, like, he does it in coffee group a lot. And he doesn't, I don't even think he realizes he does it because he's so programmed into the positive side of things. But like, it's just like, he makes things sound so simple because they are, you know what I mean? And like, when it comes to these, like when you're back, you're like, oh my gosh, buying a commercial property and all the things. And like, you know what I mean? Like, and then he'll make it sound so simple, and you almost want to be like, "Shut up!" Like it's hard, like it. But like the truth is, like let it feel hard because that makes my excuse not to do it more valid.
Right.
But the truth is that's why we surround ourselves with these people, because my excuse isn't valid. My excuse isn't valid. It's an excuse I came up with because the thing is, I could call Tyler tomorrow and say, "Hey, I got the money and I need help," and he'd be like, "Okay, meet me in my office. Let's figure something out." And so like the idea that I don't already have 4 commercial properties is my own fault. And I think if people understood, we've talked about this before, but at the end of the day, it's on you.
Right.
Like it's not on anyone. It's on you. And I'm sure you already have the capability to do the things that you want to do. You're just not doing them.
Yeah. Like 80% of it is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. Like just getting past the mindset and the belief system that you are capable, you're responsible, and you're contributing, whether good or bad. So go ahead and pick which one you want to do. Right. And I would think it's really interesting too, something that Jordan, you brought up, like how environment oftentimes, I mean, you said absolutely dictates your future. I would modify that to say that it can, right? Because with our environment, I think that a lot of times I've seen a lot of successful people, they just cancel out everybody else that was ever in their life that isn't the abundant mindset. But it's like, that's not each one teach one, And I think, Jordan, you actually, you showed me something towards like a percentage of the percent that you want to be with the people that are above you, a percent with the people that are
rule.
what?
33% rule.
Yeah, the 33%, like with people above you, people at the same level, and people that are like not in the same opportune place, whether it's even mindset. And I appreciate that because a lot of us are like, oh, I'm going up the hill now. Can't freaking see anymore. Sorry. It's like, man, that is so not on purpose and what we're called to do.
No.
And I think that's what is wrong with this world. Like why there's so many starving people in countries is because we aren't reaching down to pull each other up. And so like, I think that what you said is still so beautiful and it can dictate. And that's our opportunity, is to change the environment that we're in, right? Go to a different one, but still have an influence wherever you're at, be a light, And that's super exciting. And it's like, people like Tyler, people like Jordan, people like Derek, like we all have different gifts that God has given us. Like Jordan can tell me all about house hacking, right? All the little nicks and crannies that like are going to save me years and probably loads of emotional damage that I'm not going to have to go through. And then same thing with Tyler. Like if I can talk to him about what can I do about the commercial real estate, I can go to Derek and talk about what is like, why am I feeling so sluggish? Well, let's look at your freaking blood work. Let's like check out this stuff and see why that food is, affecting you in the way that it is. And so where I'm going with that too is like every single one of us, that all requires intentionality, no matter what, if it's going to happen. Because you could, Jordan, you got to do yourself, dude. It's not love. It's not love God and love others. Actually, it's like love yourself and that's it, But gosh, it's like it's such a duality of like understanding that everything is going to require balance. Everything's going to require a higher mindset in situations to where you can really develop yourself first, not necessarily love yourself first, develop yourself first so you can do the other, love God and love others, because I can't give what I don't have. So that just gets me really amped up of just like whatever it is that we're wanting to pursue, like we're capable.
People can be so competitive too, because it's like I posted something about this yesterday, but it's like your friend surpasses you. That's awesome. You're excited.
I loved that.
And then they bring you up, and then you pass them.
Yes.
And then you're excited, they're excited, and then you bring them up. And then it's just this like it's this like whiplash effect back and forth. Let me help you, let you help me, let me help you, let you help me. And people are so lost on it. There's people who will like scroll past. I've read articles on crap like this where they scroll past like Facebook posts and they won't share their friend's business because they're like, I don't want him to do better than me.
Right.
What? That makes no sense at all. Like, how does that fulfill the win-win mindset? How is that going to make your life better, their life better, any of the circumstances better? And I don't know. It's such a selfish mindset. And one thing I work in the fitness world, and it's such like a dog eat dog world. As much as you think we'd all be like loving and kind because we're helping people's soul and body, you know, people are rugged. They are just straight. And I'm sure your guys' industries are the same. People are cutthroat. They're just like 100% about them, 100% about their goals, what they're trying to achieve all the time. And, you know, the funny thing is that, I'm sure you guys see in your guys' industry too, those are never the people that win.
Yeah, it's not win-win at all. And last thing I'll say too, like with all of this talk of the duality and how all of us can like dive into being intentional, like, man, no matter what, like Matthew 7:7 says, ask and you shall receive, knock and it shall be open to you. Mm-hmm. That is a huge scripture for my life, because I went from bold to like scared to what they're going to say and judge me on to now bold again, because I've learned that if you don't ask, no matter freaking what, the answer is always no. So like, go ahead and ask. And you don't have to say it in a selfish way either. Just be curious. The posture of curiosity can take us so far. Like, ask some motherfucking questions. And then you're on that person's radar, and like you guys can help each other, make it a win-win.
I love that you said that, because I just literally studied Matthew 7:7. I'm new to the Bible.
Let's go.
I'm the new one here. New to God. God revealed himself to me this last year. But my mom literally wrote down Matthew 7:7, Derek. This is what you need to put your mind into this week. And it's just the duality. And we talk about this all the time. Once you realize the divine, you see the synchronicity all the time and everything. And you look right there. You just throw it right out there. One of the only Bible verses you could name that I could say along with you as you say it.
That's amazing.
It's beautiful. I'm gonna hop subjects real quick because I want to go into like the actual financial side of things.
What were you gonna say, Jordan?
Go ahead, Jordan. Sorry, I'm cutting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just really wanted to tie into what you were talking about. You know, in your industry, it's just dog eat dog. It's truly the two mindsets of scarcity mindset and abundance mindset. And within that, so I went to a seminar called Momentum, which is through Psi seminars. There's this circle here. This is the circle of the entire universe and life. So what that essentially is, there's this little slice that you control, that you have access to in all that is available, all that is. This slice, you can only fit so much in. And if you are in scarcity and just trying to hold on to every little aspect of your life, oh, I can't let my money go. I can't invest in this business. I can't give my time to this person because they're going to take from me. Like, if you have this scarcity mindset, what happens is you block the flow of being able to receive more, because you have to let go. It's this revolving circle. If you don't give with generosity, which is, you know, if you're not giving out, adding value, you know, giving your gifts that God has given, that he has made for you to give, you are blocking the flow of you ever being able to receive. And on the receiving side, true receiving is gratitude. You have to make space and be thankful for everything in your life, including the things that have been fucked up in your life. If those truly have helped shape you into the man or woman that you have been called to be. You know, they say that the devil tempts you. Well, God tests you. And if you can live through the lens of abundance and gratitude in all aspects of your life, everything that happens for you, it opens up a world that you never knew was possible. And if you pair that with giving, your slice will become so beautiful, abundant, and more than you ever thought was possible.
I love that.
The
I'm
other
sure that-
side of that, sorry, I'm just on a run here.
No, I love it.
So one of the things they talked about, because the whole focus of the seminar was abundance, and they talk about, imagine your life, you as Derrek, Jimmy, Tyler, me, all we are is a conduit for life to flow through us. If you imagine a garden hose, the water flowing through, you are the hose. You have no idea how much water is going to flow through at what times in your life, what seasons. But here's what you do have control over. I'll show you this picture for people that are listening on audio. Essentially, it's like you see these little like blocks, these little pebbles. These are what are called like limiting beliefs or incompletes in your life, things that are not resolved. If you don't take the time to peel back the layer of the onion from the traumas of your childhood, things that you've left incomplete in your life, those essentially are blocking the flow of life that is supposed to go through you. And if you don't take the time, which it can be freaking terrifying to go back to those memories and those times that, just shattered who you thought you were as a person, or like traumas that you went through. But in order to be able to release those and let those go, like the life that comes on the other side of that, and the flow that your conduit is able to produce is incredible. And it's some of the hardest work you'll ever do as a human being. But that's why I love and I'm so thankful that I was able to become self-employed, because these things were exposed to me. Again, I really do believe that if you do cultivate a good environment to become who you want to become, like I don't know that I would have ever been through PSI seminars for guys like Jimmy, Tony, and Dakota. But because I did, I was able to learn how important it is to work through your limiting beliefs and the programs that were passed on to you from your childhood. The things that you automatically do, whether you realize you're doing it or not, that are probably no longer serving with who you're trying to become.
Hallelujah.
I love it. I love it. It's funny how I was like the direction I was going to go, Jordan just went. Yeah. So I was going to go into like working past things and how like in the limiting beliefs. And then one of the things I was going to go into is like a skill-based mindset. So it's like one of these quotes, I'm going to screw it up, but I love it. I've said it many times. Like, people always ask for life to be easier, but what they need to ask is to be better. And what people always ask for is less problems, and what they need to ask for is more skills. And I think that, like, as we look into like these different areas of our lives, people are always looking at the problem side of things and not how that problem is going to flip. Like you said, working through traumas, working through these limited beliefs. Sometimes it's not just like you said, like a river with stones that's blocking the water. Like sometimes it's not just like getting rid of the stone, the flow's better. Sometimes in getting rid of the stone, you open up the waterway more on each side. Like you learn something during the process that makes you so much better. And that's where we get into like even the skill side of things. Like one thing you said at the very beginning of the podcast that I loved, and I just hit me hard, was you were like, this program, the real estate investment program, getting your license, it doesn't teach you much. It really doesn't. What you learn is like you learn it later on. And like, I think that goes back to the self-development side of things, where like people need to be putting their time into self-development. People need to be focusing on their skills. Like a lot of people will, let's say, take the real estate exam and they don't go into anything else after that. But knowing Jordan, I mean, and Tyler also doing some of these, Jimmy as well, everyone here, all these people, self-development is a key to our entire lives. Like all we do is self-develop. Like all we ever do is push ourselves forward through these things. So I think sometimes, not only are you fixing these limiting beliefs for the fix, like to pull them out of your path, but also you're fixing them because you don't know, like it's like you pick the stone up and you realize underneath it was like a piece of gold. Like, I mean, you find something better, not just remove the bad. And then it's kind of perfect. Jordan went right down that path. I love that.
Well, I think you also gotta like kind of add on top of all that is like being able to be humble, but also confident. And it's kind of like they go back and forth too. So like when I got first started in the commercial stuff, like I didn't really know what I was doing. I read some books, so I knew some lingo. And then like everybody hears all the success stuff, but they don't hear like I had to go to like 7 or 8 banks and I got rejected by like 7 banks before I found one bank that told me yes. And I mean, like each bank, you learn something new. They're like, oh, have you thought about this? And I'm like, well, what is that? And then they explain it to you. And then you put it in your toolbox. And then the next bank, you come up there with the next thing. And then you add it and be like, oh, yeah, I thought about this, and this. And then they're like, well, did you think about that one? And it's like, well, darn it, no, I didn't. So then you cross it off, you try to figure something out. But then like, as you keep adding that stuff to your toolbox, you become more confident. And so like some people struggle where they try to like play almost a victim card where they don't know anything. And so like, well, I don't know anything, so just like hold my hand and do everything for me. And then you've got to be confident in, hey, I know how to do this, and this, and I can get to this point, but I'm really stuck here. And I'm thinking that this might be the route, but in your experience, like, is that a good route? And then people, I think, are so much more willing to kind of help you up because you're kind of explaining some confidence that, hey, I'm able to get to this point. I just can't get above here. And so I need help to get to that next tier. And people are a lot more willing than just being like, hey, just hold my hand and do everything for me.
Right. That's beautiful. You know, I think that's a really good transition too, of like realizing how valuable like each and every one of us are, and understanding that value can have a price. Like so many people, I'm going to say Al Jones. I'm just going to call him out right now. Bro, I hope that you freaking watch this. But that mother father right there has so much value, just like Tyler, just like Jordan, just like Derek. And we understand, like, dude, how many years of different banks that you're not going to go to because you can sit down with this expert already and learn the route. Like, that's so valuable to me. And I think there's also value too in like giving it out free and just a value exchange. That still can exist. It's just there's also like the opportunity of being like a consult or a coach to where you can actually help people that want it. Yeah. And like,
if you don't pay, you don't pay attention.
If you don't pay, you don't pay attention. Amen, bro. Yeah. I just think that's so interesting though.
Yeah, I really like where it's like Tyler's like, and you know, what people don't talk about is I went to 7 banks and they turned me away. Yeah. And I will say, I think there's some value to like even diving into that side of things too, because it's just like the one thing me and Jimmy talked about when we were creating the podcast is like, you know, we didn't want to just focus on the good, because that's the thing that I think does get lost sometimes in our industry, because like you don't want to show the bad. And I don't mean that like even selfishly. It's that like if Jordan's going to a sale and someone looks at his Instagram real quick and he's on there and he's like, man, I'm having a bad day. And you know what? All my deals keep falling through. And like the next guy's going to be like, why would I buy a house from this guy? So obviously there's a real valid reason to put your best foot forward in like most scenarios, show your best self. But the truth is, like, there are times where entrepreneurship, where we've all been, it is hard, man. It is hard. There is uncertainty. That is the biggest word that I always throw out there when we're talking about entrepreneurship, is the uncertainty. And like that comes from the scarcity mindset. It comes from these things. But the biggest thing you find is that like it happens to everyone. You're not like special in the fact that it's hard for you. And like the people who might not be like rambling about it and talking about it all the time, it's just because they understand that those things were lessons, not problems. And like, and if you can get to the point where you understand that like Tyler had to go to all these banks for like him to learn some of the skills that maybe he did along the way. Maybe he wasn't even destined to be with one of those people. Maybe he went to the right bank and he was destined to be there because he ended up getting relationships with the right people that led him to where he is. Like for Jordan, I'm sure there was a lot of houses that didn't sell for a long time. And you're just like, I need money. Like I need this to work, please. Like I'm putting in 80 hours. Let this please work. And, you know, like sometimes we don't paint that picture for people because obviously it's not the picture that, you know, everybody wants to see. But the truth is, like, it's not that you guys were failing. You guys were just learning. And I think that's so important.
I think the best book to go along with what you're talking about right now is called The Power of One More by Ed Milet. One thing he talks about in that book is you are so much closer to winning than you even know you are. If you just focus on, like, here's a perfect example. This is from another book, but he, like, in this book I'm reading, it's called Fanatical Prospecting. He says, you know, if you knew you were 8 sales calls away from getting your next deal, how does that sound compared to, I'm just going to cold call today? If you actually know your numbers, like, and that's something you have to learn. You have to learn how to track that kind of stuff. But, you know, in life or business, if you think about, okay, well, based on where my current skill set is, like, how much is it going to take for me to get to this point? Okay, well, 8 more appointments and I'm going to get at least one more deal, and so that's almost exciting. You're like 7 more no's away from getting the payday, like, uh, if we can really focus on how can I win here instead of what am I losing, like exactly like Tyler said, you're adding another tool to the tool belt. Who cares that 7 banks said no? The one bank that said yes has made him a millionaire. It's totally that. You are also, and as Ed Milet says in that book, you are so much closer to losing than you think, losing it all. Like he said, even at his level of success, he's almost a billionaire. He is terrified, not terrified, terrified is probably not a good word, but he's scared that he could lose it all. He knows that he could lose it all because you have no idea what's going to happen in your life, right? So it's like, in the gym, as an example, do always exceed your own expectations of what you think is possible for yourself. Because if not, like, you will put these limits on yourself, and definitely other people will too. People, especially if you're in the wrong environment, people will put limits on you because they don't see the dream that God has put inside of you. Only you can see that. So always exceed your own expectations. If you're in the gym and you're going to do 12 reps, always do one more than what you thought was possible for yourself in every single aspect of your life. And that is where you will build a certainty and a confidence that will take you well further than you ever thought was possible. It's when you are willing to sell your will to win, as Ed Milet says, that you can lose it all.
I want to comment on that real quick too, because that's like all those things are the do part, which is super vital, right? And if we go back to the beingness part, that requires the awareness of that internal dialogue and the quality of questions that you're asking yourself and the self-talk that you provide. So it's like, we were talking about limiting beliefs. That's what it was. And just basically like the life and flow that can come from that is incredible, right? And the book that I'm reading right now, Dr. Helmstetter, like, so good. What to say when you talk to yourself. Like, I recommend that to everybody. And then there's like YouTube videos and stuff, like has a recording of self-talk that you can listen to in the morning. Super valuable. But what's happened is I've acquired his framework of looking at your mind as really an apartment. And in that apartment, there is literally old motherfucking furniture all over the place, like old dishes, everything just worn the frick out for most people because of the 146,000 programs that you've had developed to reinforce and wire your brain to be the negative, scarce part, right? And so, like, you go in there as a coach, as a brother in Christ, like whatever it is, to go help somebody, and you're like, hey, we're going to take all this furniture out of here, right? You take it all out and you go put it in the garage. And now what happens is the person that you're going back to with, you leave them, and now they're stuck in this empty apartment. And they're like, wow, this is cool. Like, not all those negative programs are going on. However, they don't know any different. So they're like, let me just go grab one chair, right? So they go back into the garage. They bring that old program back, sit down. Let me get one dish. They go and get the one dish. And like, you just continue to refill the house with what you know, right? Everybody's doing the best they can with the resources they believe they have. Yeah. So the more effective option, because it's effective to do what we just said, you might get some new furniture in there. But if you can go in and replace the old negative belief systems with the new operating, saying that you are capable, and it's just simple stuff, but realizing that you are, dude, now your apartment can have all the new modern stuff that is that you're capable of having, I would say. And that's just so beautiful to me, to like the limiting beliefs that a lot of us have. Like when I was talking about Al Jones, like he's not the only one. You spot it, you got it. It's the same thing for me still. And it will always be a journey, ING, healing, not healed. I'm always going to be working on my belief system, my mindset, and the internal dialogue that I have. Because there's times where I'm like getting in my head, dude, you're not freaking worth it. You're not lovable. Like just crazy stuff that I'm saying. And I'm not looking at myself the way that God looks at me instead. And it's like, yeah, like just going back to my man Al Jones, we had a great talk last week. You're like, dude, let's get together soon and just kind of talk about it. Like, it's like, dude, borrow my belief in you until you believe in yourself. He is so amazing. Do all of you guys know Al Jones here?
I don't.
Nope.
Okay, he owns like all West Central. Just saying.
Oh, okay.
He is the freaking man. Him and his wife are such a beautiful team. They're amazing married couple. Like, he's an amazing dad. She's an amazing wife. Like, dude, they are just rock stars. And I've told him, like, oftentimes, bro, you should consider you could consider, not should, sorry. You could consider getting into the coaching business, because he used to be a principal that like really has exceeded his income as a principal to where it didn't even make any more sense, because he has so many properties and all the things that he's built. And it's like, dude, all of that time, decades of time that you've done, people would love to hear about that and get their hands on it. So it's like just our opportunity of being intentional to say, hey, bro, hey, dude, you could do this. Hey, Jordan, you could get out of Costco. I think you'd be a really good realtor. And it's just like, wow, I never thought about that. Crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to comment on that, because it's like, what a beautiful thing to change our apartment in here.
He better start doing coaching, because I don't know Al, but just hearing what you just said, I want to learn from Al.
I love
so
you so
Al,
much.
if you were watching this, I'm telling you that you will be letting this poor soul down, Derek Eby, if you do not start some form of coaching. Because here I am, I'm lost, Al. I'm lost. I need your guidance. Yes. I want to own the east side. You can have the west. That's fine. How can I get there if you don't teach me?
Amen, baby. You're so awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I know it's so like random, but like you said some things earlier that were so good, Jordan. You're like, well, you can be the buyer's agent, and you can like move your down payment off. You can do like an FHA loan and move into the house and get 3% down. And for Tyler and for Jordan, for everyone here, like, what are just some little like tricks and tips, specifically Tyler and Jordan, because you guys are in the real estate side of things a little deeper? Like, what are these tricks? I'll start with Tyler, that you think that people just don't know, that you learned along the way. You're like, whoa, I can do that. That's so much easier. Whether it's like private financing, or how to get special money for the loans, or special loans, or how to do things. Is there any of those that stand out in your head that like you remember blowing your mind when you learned? Or maybe, and I know you always haven't written these down and prepared these, but like anything that stands out, Tyler, that that you think is so super important?
You know, for me, probably the biggest thing was like, use your strengths, and then find somebody that their strength is your weakness. And so I know a lot of people give advice of like, don't have partners, and partnerships are horrible. And you certainly have those horror stories. But in my experience, I've had like several different partnerships, and they've been like the best thing I've ever done.
Let's go.
Because like I get to use my strength. And so like I'm an analytical nerd, and I can do all that stuff. And I can just like sit in my own little world, and then they get to sit in their own little world, where they're just a rock star at whatever it is, whether it's raising private capital, or maybe it's talking to people, doing cold calls. Because man, I would rather do something, almost anything. I'll go scrub toilets before I pick up the phone and do a cold call. like
the special person.
I love it.
Yeah, like, see, I just found like when you partner with somebody that they like and enjoy doing that, then it just meshes together, and you become so much more successful, because it's so hard to be the jack of all trades of doing everything perfect, because then you're trying to hold yourself up to such a high standard that you'll never even get started, because you can't even come close to that standard. Where if you just segment it out and be like, okay, I'm really good at being analytical, then like your confidence builds up, because, well, all I do is spreadsheets, and I live and die by what I love to do. And that fulfills me, because I like spreadsheets and I like doing analytical things. And so then it just kind of builds upon itself, because you start doing what you like to do, you put in the reps. And it just seems like it's been a way faster track to be successful than trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah, we talked about it was Dakota and Spencer last week, but it came up similarly. I think it's just kind of perfect how you said that. Like, so often business, whether it's employees, whether it's partners, whether it's anything, which I think are all great ideas personally, but you know, you're always looking for another you. Like, people naturally are like, I'm a beast at this. I'm Jordan Wildman, and I'm an animal. So I'm getting another Jordan Wildman, and he's going to work for, but the truth is Jordan's already a beast at those things. Why would he get another one? And like, and also the idea that because we have value in the ways we have value, that it is the main source of value that exists. And I think that when you understand that you are the only you, and that sometimes your team having the diversity and sometimes like them having strengths you don't, sometimes like being able to step back and understand like, well, they see the picture in a different way than I do. I think that's super powerful, because sometimes we like to think of ourselves as like, the ruler of our little universe. We're the smartest, we're the greatest. The truth is that, we might be amazing, but that doesn't mean that someone else can't be equally amazing in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if there's two people that are identical, then that means there's one person that's useless.
Exactly. I love that.
Or redundant, or however you want to do it.
Redundant's a better word, probably.
Yeah, there you go. Redundant's a better word.
I think you, Jordan? One of the phrases that I've heard that has been incredible is that ties well with this is like, if you want to go fast, you can go alone for a time, but if you want to go far, you have to go together. I really believe in that. I just, again, like cultivating your environment with people that will help you to see it in a different light. If all you do is hang around people that only have your outlook and view, that should immediately scare the shit out of you. Mm-hmm. You need people that will challenge you and say, hey, like, you're fucking up in this area. You need to look at this, because I care enough to risk what you think I think about you or what you think about me to tell you that I know there's more inside of you. Competition is a fantastic thing, and having people in your life that will help you become more of who you are, really truly supporting what you actually want and your real potential, is a beautiful thing. I think as a little tidbit story that I can hopefully share about real estate as an example. The privilege of real estate is truly, you can literally invest in real estate with none of your own money. Like, money will never, ever, 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 ever be the issue. If you find a deal and you have focused on building a network of people around you, you will get the deal done, and you can do it with none of your own money.
Can you explain that? Just because obviously like that, like we hear this a lot. Like, I said, like I've joked about Tyler making it seem so easy to get the money to buy these big properties, or like people always like Dakota was on here last week, and I was like, oh, I'm going to give you this much money, but you have to start over. What would you do? He's like, I don't need any money. And like, so it's like, explain for people who might not understand that concept. How do you not need money, and how do you work around that?
Well, I think it definitely starts with investing in yourself first. I think if you can build at least a base know-how, that really will help you. So doing things like reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, doing the Bigger Pockets deep dive, really understanding what it is to invest in real estate, getting in networking groups and start getting around people, building relationships with people that not only can help you significantly scale forward. Like, one of the things I did in the beginning was, when I started going to that local RIA group, Real Estate Investor Association, I sought out old school dudes that had been landlords for 40 years and knew all the ins and outs, had been through all this crazy stuff, because what they did is they collapsed my timeline significantly. And it started with me adding value to them and giving to them, taking them out to lunch, just complimenting them and being so appreciative of their time, because they don't owe me anything. But if you add value first, like, it will significantly collapse your timeline and allow you to avoid extreme pitfalls, money loss, time loss, emotional loss, stress. Like, I mean, even from what I've gone through in my life, I know even for what I've experienced, if I had somebody like me when I was first starting out in real estate, especially as an agent, I can't even imagine where I would probably be worth $10 million right now. Yeah. Like, relationships absolutely collapse your timeline. So as an example, the first property I ever bought, I got on seller financing, which is a way to buy properties with very low or no money down. So that's when, instead of you going to the bank and getting a mortgage or a loan, you go directly to the owner and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I'd like to buy this property and I would like you to finance it. And the privilege of that, or the great thing of that, is they get to get their equity over time, so they don't get taxed all at once on all of their gains, and they get to typically make an interest rate on that money over time as well. So I bought that property, no money down, for $60,000, and I had a balloon of 5 years. So my payment after 2 months was when payment started, was $430 a month. And most people are like, dude, I couldn't buy anything for $400 a month. What you don't know about this property, it was a condemned 5-plex. Had just been through a fire, fully condemned, no utilities on. but I knew it was a good deal because Al Jones actually had just sent me an appraisal for his brick fiveplex like a mile away for $420,000. So I knew in my head, like, this is where I'm at. Like, in real estate, you make all your money at the buy. That is a really good phrase to know. And part of that is knowing what it's worth afterwards. It's the ARV, or after repair value. If you have a pretty good idea of what the ARV, or after repair value is, then you know where you need to buy your properties in order to get your returns. So I bought it for $60,000. In this instance, because I didn't know any better at the time, I used my own money to finance the rehab or fund the rehab. Knowing what I know now, I never needed to put any of my own money into it. But so I was all into this property for $130,000, including purchase price and rehab. Then I went to the bank after I had fully leased up the place and it was bringing in $4,000 a month in rent. Said, "Hey, I have this great brick fiveplex that's fully remodeled, fully rented. What's it worth?" It was appraised for $365,000. So what I did was called the BRRRR strategy. That's when you buy a distressed property or under market value, you rehab it, rent it out, refinance, and then repeat. It's a very scalable way to use very little of your own money to buy real estate. So I was able to get a check, by the way, which was tax-free money, because debt or a refinance is not a taxable event. I never sold the property. I still own it to this day for $207,000, and I didn't get taxed on it. So I was able to get not only 200 grand, but I still own the asset that is netting me 2,000 a month, which is what I used to make a month at Costco. And that one property allowed me to scale forward so significantly.
Debate time. Just we talked about this at coffee group super hard the other day. And this is not saying you're wrong. I love everything said. I just love, because so caveat to this though is something I see guys do a lot. And this is something that Bobby Klein was on my side of, well, maybe not my side of, but understanding my perspective of, because he got himself into a pickle with this, which is with the BRRRR method, you buy, you renovate, you refinance. But now, because you refinanced, you took out the maximal loan on that property possible. So you put yourself in a situation where your debt to profit ratio is much, much slimmer, and your monthly mortgage payments are much, much higher. So you absolutely have to get the next property or the next thing flowing. And you put yourself into a pickle where, like Bobby was talking about, how some of his properties, he got himself to the point where, like, a single percentage change in interest, a single thing, because he had put them at that maximal debt rate, put it so he's losing money. So this is not to say you're wrong, just the thought of, like, I know my cat is chewing on my cord, but but not that you're wrong at all, but it is say you didn't refinance that property, sure, you wouldn't get $207,000 out of it, but you'd have a more profitable asset on a long-term basis that's a lot safer. So for maybe like someone who's like, I'm going to go to $10 million, that's the best idea. But would you give that same advice, or do you think that's good advice for someone who's like, I just want to build a safe, steady, certain income source of 50 grand a year, like slowly over time? Would you still follow that same method? And like, what do you think about what I'm saying with like the higher debt ratio?
Well, I think here's a couple things to consider before I answer the question. We have no idea how much time we actually have on this earth, and speed is how you produce real results.
That makes sense.
Like, money is attracted by speed. What leverage does is it allows you to scale considerably faster than if you were just using your own resources. The only real reason, because I didn't have the mindset or all the connections yet to actually do that deal to fund the $70,000 rehab, was because I had created a high income skill or active income that allowed for me to fund those repairs. If I still was working at Costco, that rehab would have probably bankrupted me. Mm-hmm. That was a significant rehab. That rehab took 9 months. So I definitely believe, if you can create an active income and then invest it into passive income to the point where then you can live off your passive income, that's where you can really get financial freedom. But you definitely still, I don't know. I definitely believe like finding a way to have your value pay you significant amounts of money, and especially if you love to do it, is a great way to really build real freedom later. Here's the thing about debt too. Debt does equal more risk. If you own a property outright, You know, it is less risky in the fact that you don't have an obligation to a mortgage. However, on the other side of that, if you were to get sued, that mortgage takes up a percentage of that equity, right? If you own your properties outright, you're also a much more attractive person to sue because you have 100% equity in your properties.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of dualities to this, and you really only start to learn this stuff after you start doing it. I would honestly say, like, you will, if you talk about how you're talking right now, it is so easy to get stuck in an analysis paralysis and never create any action at all. Right. At some point, you just have to freaking start. I talk to new investors from all over the country that buy here in the Midwest all the time, and they're saying, yeah, I'm getting my first property. And I'm somebody like, I just need to get us into action. Like, even if you get a couple base hits in the beginning, like, you can still win the game. Right. It's people that like, I got a home run on my first deal, but no one really, like, there's very, very few people that would go through the rehab in that property that I did. That, like, absolutely defined me as an investor, but it almost broke me too. Right? Like, when you go through a fire rehab property, like, you have to deal with structural engineers, commercial building inspectors, neighborhood code condemnation orders. And I'd never even done a rehab before, but I was so, like, in the phase of, I don't know what I don't know, but by the grace of God, I'm really good at networking. As Tyler said, like, what am I really good at? How can I double down on the skills I do have? And I'm really good at building value and creating great relationships with people that can look into what I'm doing and, like, hey, did you consider this, this, and this? Okay, hey, watch out for this. This is going to cost you a lot of money if you don't fix this right now. And so, like, if you surround yourself with winners, like, your risk absolutely goes down significantly.
Absolutely.
That's just what I would say. Like, if I want to worry about my physical health, I can talk to both of you two and save myself years of being in shitty health and ultimately living a higher quality life. Amen. You know.
Yeah, I like what you said, because those are some real pros that I didn't hear when we talked about this the other day. Was, so there's tax-free income now because it's obviously debt that you would give him back. That's a huge plus. Your chance of getting sued, and you can't get sued for the full price of the property, obviously, because you don't own the full price of the property. That's a huge thing. And obviously money back in your pocket, because I'm not opposed to the idea of doing it myself. It's just, it's one of these thoughts, like, from a perspective of, let's just say, because I do want to get into commercial. So that's a good question for Tyler. I'm sure, Tyler, maybe you do this exact same metric, and I'd love to hear you on that one. But it's like, let's say I own $1 million commercial property. I'm going to make up numbers here. These are all bullcrap, just so everyone knows. Like, I have a $30,000 mortgage. I'm making up a number. And maybe that gives me a lot more property than I think it does. But I have a $30,000 mortgage. There's no way that, no matter what I work, no matter how much I work, no matter how good my personal business does, there's no way that if that property does not work phenomenally, that I could ever afford that mortgage. Like, I'm saying, like, that's a mortgage that could ruin me in, like, 2 months vacant. Especially if it's the first. So, if you have 4, you have 10, then, like, you make enough profits to cover your ass a little bit. But, like, when it's the first, doing the Burr method on maybe even a bigger property like that, is that something you did, Tyler? What's your thought on that? And I'm not, worth noting, I'm not saying these are bad ideas. I just love the counter argument, so I can hear why you guys think so pro into this idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a constant struggle, and that's one. I've chosen not to burr a couple deals just because of that. I think the tough thing is trying to figure out, everybody has that different risk tolerance. So I think some people, like, as you're just trying to, like, when I was initially just trying to get out of a day job, like, your risk tolerance is so high because you hate what you're doing every day. So you're like, I just want to not do what I'm doing today. And so you are willing to jump off the cliff and take a little more risk, where like, now today, like, I'm living the dream. And so do I want to go jump off the cliff because I'm already living the dream? Like, the risk tolerance has dropped a little bit. I mean, you still make deals and stuff like that, but sometimes you're not wanting to go out and get 80% leverage, where 60% leverage seems to fit the bill more, because it takes away some of the risk, gives me a little bit more cash flow, kind of protects that cushion that if tenant would leave for a few months or a few years, that I'm still able to make those payments. And so I think it just depends on where you're at in the stage of life. Like, the first one, when you had your day job, or when I had my day job, like, I felt more comfortable that if I had a vacancy, my day job would be able to pick up the income. Where now, when I'm living off the investments, I like to see my debt service coverage ratio much higher than a lot of banks will do. And so for the listeners that don't know what debt service coverage is it's basically the percentage difference between how much income you bring in versus how much debt you have to pay out. So let's do the example of like if you bring in $125,000 of income and you have $100,000 of debt, that'd be a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. And so like I like to have mine significantly higher, where my whole portfolio is kind of in that like 1.7, 1.8, which is probably a lot higher. I mean, most banks want like 1.25, but I feel uncomfortable at 1.25. So I think a lot of it just comes down to kind of that personal risk, how large your portfolio is. And there's not an answer that fits all.
Yeah. And question here, and this is not to like say that just simply, you said obviously when you started, you were ready to jump off the cliff, you were willing to take the risk because of that. And then as you got farther along, you were willing to take on less debt to do the properties because you already had this dream life. But is there also a narrative there that as the path went along, you also had more money, so you weren't so desperate to take on debt to get the properties? Because like, well, let's just say I'm going to go buy a commercial property. I might only have $150,000 to put down, and then I have nothing. So like, but maybe when you're farther along the journey, not only does your risk reward ratio change, the amount of capital that you have to spend changes drastically too. Like if I go to get a commercial property, I might not have the choice. I might have to leverage a lot. But like if you're farther along and let's just say you have $500 million sitting there that like of capital income a year, then you do gain the ability to change that opinion. Like you can be more risk oriented at the beginning because you need the money, you actually need the help. And later on you can be more like safe because you do have the money to get around it. And I'm not saying that's the case, but is that part of the equation too? Is like you were just actually able to pay more of the properties off?
Not sure if I fully understood your question.
What I mean by go ahead, Jordan.
I think just something to kind of shift your mind frame a little. What you're talking about right now is a lot of just I in the beginning, especially if you're trying to take down a larger deal in the beginning, like a commercial deal. It would probably be most effective for you to partner with a guy like Tyler.
Yes.
Right? Because you probably don't have a lot of capital. You definitely don't have the know-how yet. Like leverage the fact of your network and relationships and go further together. Right.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And in no way, once again,
it doesn't need to be all on you.
Yeah. In no way, once again, I love the leverage mindset. I love the idea of it. I just was curious because, like I said, the idea of these bigger properties and the leverage and the money and the debt being so high, it's so interesting to me from a guy who used to fear debt so much. And now I've spent so much time around individuals who just explained to me, like, I mean, we learn over time that money is literally debt. Like money, the piece of paper you have is literally just a piece of debt that you could go turn in for gold is what it's meant to be. So you're already just carrying around a pocket full of debt anyways. So you might as well make sure that it's debt that pays you.
Amen. Wow. You know, I think I got like a 3-part statement here on what everybody's like kind of talked about. And I think what's necessary for whoever's listening and wherever they are in their BS. When I say BS, I'm not talking bullpucky. I'm talking belief system and your internal dialogue. So when we look at like people who are like all growing, will share with you and challenge you to be like your best, right? And celebrate your gifts with you as they leverage theirs. That's the first part of the statement. Because like I've seen a lot of people get themselves into, they start getting their mind a little right, but then they look at a person that they might partner with. Like, let's say Derrek, for instance, you and I are very similar in like the life coaching and like changing people's physiology and everything else. So if I look at how many years you've been doing that and how the lesser amount that I have in that realm, I can start comparing myself and then seeing that I'm not significant enough. Right. So it's like, no, dude, I'm looking at one of Derrek's shelves and comparing that shelf to my shelf right there. And that's not smart. Instead, I want to celebrate your gifts and that shelf and then leverage the shelf that I have. So that's the first part of the statement. The second part is like, how do you find them? Like the ones with the results and purpose. Because when we talk about like networking, I found a lot of people that have the results, but they have no purpose. So they're actually over here and they're burnt out. and they hate their life, right? And that's where you talk about like the millionaires, but they're all by themselves because they've destroyed themselves. They've destroyed their relationships. Everything's gone. And then you have even down here where there's no purpose or results, and that's floundering. But the cool thing is like we can have purpose. Let's go the opposite route. You can have purpose, but no results, and then you're unrecognized. And not by other people, but by yourself. You feel unrecognized. So if you can find the people that have the results and the purpose, you're fulfilled and you're thriving. And that's what's cool too, is like when people try to find those people, like they're searching, it's like, stop searching, because you're chasing in that moment instead of becoming and attracting. And that's what's so cool about this whole podcast, is that we have not all become, right? We are all becoming the best that we can, and we are sharpening each other along the way. So that's what's really exciting for the people that get into the analysis paralysis, like, oh, well, I'm not outgoing enough. Or, freaking Jordan, just when he talks, like gold spitting out his freaking mouth. Like, dude, like that's a skill that he grew on, And it's like, just start somewhere and try to become, like, start reading a book, whether it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whether it's like, gosh, there's such a list, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Multipliers, Slaying Resistance, like all these different books that you can read. And like, you don't have to read it all in a freaking day either. That's another thing. I don't have time. Motherfucker, you got 5 minutes. You can read 2 pages a day and see where you go the next year. Like, I don't know. I just get really excited to see like every single one of us has greatness, and we can all unleash it together. It doesn't have to be by ourselves. So yeah, I really, really appreciate like all the knowledge that I've gained from every single one of you today, because dude, I learned a lot.
I love it. I think that's like the whole point of, we spend all the time in like the coffee groups and our business groups and our meetings. And it's like, it is these debates, it is these fun things. Cause like I said, like even in this little conversation, I've learned so much so quickly. And that's just the benefit of surrounding yourself with people who have already taken steps that you haven't stepped in yet. It's like when there's a lot of snow on the ground and you walk in the person's footprints, just makes everything a little bit easier. You don't have to get all the snow all over your pants. Like that's what we try to do a little bit. And obviously I hope somebody's walking in my footprints behind me when I go through the snow. It's the whole purpose of why I'm doing it. I really think it's beautiful.
Amen. That's so beautiful, dude.
Just quickly, we didn't really get to talk about like some of the big benefits of commercial. Tyler, I just would love if you could share the story of the commercial property that you guys bought. You went and changed thermostats and lights, and talk about like NOI and how with large commercial, how that scale really can create real wealth quickly.
Yeah. So one of the things that really drove me towards like commercial versus residential is that commercial real estate really it's an investment property. So people really aren't there to live in it, or the owners typically don't live in it unless it's residential. And so really for most people, it's for an investment, either it's an investment in their business or investment for them personally. And so when you value real estate and commercial real estate specifically, because it's based off of investments, they typically base it off of return on investments. And so you're always kind of just using like a multiple of the income that the property produces. And so one of the big benefits is like if you're able to increase the property or increase the income for that property or decrease the expenses, that just makes the property even more valuable. So like we bought one up in South Bend, and we switched to everything from like the old fluorescent light bulbs and the old thermostat where you just dial it up to 70 degrees. And we switched it all to like LED lighting, which saves like, I think it was like $6,000 a year in electricity costs, and like the smart thermostats. And so the cool thing is like that creates value that's a lot higher than what you paid. So I think we paid like $13,000 to switch out all the thermostats and switch out the LED lights, and it saved like $6,000 of expenses in the year. And if you do it like a 10 cap, which would be a 10 times multiple, it creates $60,000 of value from it. And so you just really kind of created 4 times the amount of money that you put into it by doing some things, by either increasing the income or decreasing the expenses. So that's just kind of one of the things I really love about the commercial world. is just being able to kind of modify or force the appreciation of the buildings.
Because with single families, you can make a property as nice as you want, but it's always going to be dictated on what the comparable sales around the other area is. You only have so much control. With commercial, you have significantly more control. I mean, as another example in the multifamily space, so what he's talking about is called net operating income, typically based on the net operating income of the property, is how you can dictate the value assigned to a cap rate or a return multiple. So if, as an example, me and a partner, he found the deal. I came in because I'm kind of a specialist in the multifamily space, and we had a good working relationship at that point because I had added value. I helped him sell a couple properties and really knocked it out of the park for him. And so we started creating this win-wins, this trust and relationship. And we were able to pick up a property for a 15 unit for $625,000. When we bought it, it was bringing in like $7,000, $7,500 a month in rental income, with no utility bill back on the water bill or trash or anything like that. Now we've owned it for a year. We've put a new roof on, we put new balconies, we've redone 5 apartments. The average rent when we bought it was $500 a month across the board. Now everyone is at $695 with billing back water to almost all the units, and our net operating income has gone up almost double. So like that property was worth probably about $700 when we bought it. Now it's worth a little over $1 million. And over the next year, as we remodel a couple more apartments and get all the rents at the top of $795, which is what our remodeled apartments are getting, that asset will be worth 1.2 to 1.5 million, just depending where interest rates are at the time. And so it just goes to show, like, when you get into the larger stuff, you absolutely can get scale very, very quickly. Most people do not start there, though. Like, the only reason I even had the access to that deal and the know-how and the vision to go through that is because I did smaller, base hit deals first to understand, get the mindset. Like, at the end of 2020, I went from 17 doors to 39 and immediately had 9 vacancies, had to do a lot of renovations. Like, no one can really teach you what it feels like to have, almost half, like a very large percentage of her portfolio not making money. It can be pretty freaking terrifying. It adds a lot of stress to your life. But who you become in the process of learning how to problem solve that, how to avoid it in the future, how to be a better buyer, like buying your properties at an even deeper discount, so you have that wiggle room. That's the sauce, that's the money. And then ultimately, when you become that person to help the next guy become that, like, that's so beautiful to be able to give that knowledge and experience and save somebody from their heartache, because you'll help them scale up so much quicker. And obviously, because you're the one who did it, they're most likely, law of reciprocity, going to help you scale so much bigger, and you can all win together.
Yeah. I love that. I have a quick question, obviously, while we're on the subject. So you say, like, you put all the money in and then you get your ROI goes up so much. Like, how much money do you have to put in? Like, how much did it cost to put the balconies and to update those apartments and things like that? Like, is it like a better example? Just how much was it? Like, not an exact number, I'm saying, like, but like,
so yeah, we bought the property knowing that it was mismanaged. It was under market rents. Literally, this is the cool thing about multifamily or any commercial, as an example. You can immediately increase the value of a property just by increasing the income and reducing expenses, just like how Tyler talked about. Again, the average rents were at $500 across the board. We immediately raised everybody to $650 because there was just like, our remodeled apartments are getting $795. So, when you take that, you get these economies of scale. But then within the process, we were making the property better. Like, the roof was trash. The back rear balconies were literally like, you could shake them. We were going to get sued if we kept those on the property. So far we put $100,000 into the property. So, I guess you bought it for $625. We put $100K into it. So we're into it for $725 in total. And right now it's worth about $1 million.
Beautiful. So that was more my question, was like, did you guys put $500,000 into it? And like, now you're like, your value is equivalent, or do you have more value in it than you put in? So you clearly have way more value than you put in.
Smashing.
Absolutely. Now, and the other side of this is too, when you really start to talk about debt on larger properties, when you start adding zeros behind, like a mortgage on $100,000 duplex is completely different than the mortgage on a 15-unit apartment complex. Like if you went, because we got really cheap debt on this property back when rates were very low. So we have 3.875 amortized over 20 years, and it's a 5-year note. So as you can see, like that note's only good for 5 years. So we have a responsibility to make that property worth enough that we can refinance it when when that time comes close, right? 5 years is definitely more than enough time. We could do it right now if we wanted to, but we're kind of letting the property pay for itself for its own rehabs. But yeah, like the debt is definitely really crazy, because let's say in another year and a half this property is worth 1.5 million. Even if we don't want to leverage the crap out of it, 1.5 million times, let's say 70%, that's $1.5 million, and we'll be all into this property for probably another 100,000. So we'll all into it for 850, let's say, including closing costs and other holding costs. And so we'll be able to pull out 200,000 in equity, have paid back the original purchase price, all of our rehab costs, and made a $200,000 payday in the course of 2 or 3 years.
I love that.
So, and then we still own an asset that's more than paying for itself, and we still have 30% equity.
And you guys are netting on this property, obviously, every month too.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's consistently bringing in like 11 or 10,000 before expenses right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to cut off and just kind of add on to that. Jordan's point is, yeah, I mean, some of the cool parts just being able to add it. And sometimes you don't even have to like do anything physical to the property. So I've had a couple of properties where you just increase the rent in it exponentially just by renegotiating a lease or by getting a different tenant can almost double the property value.
Absolutely. In commercial, could you, like, if you have a tenant in, I know this sounds super like unethical, I don't mean it in that sense, just for curiosity, like you have a tenant in, Tyler, and let's say you're netting like, I don't know, 30 grand a year, but like someone else comes to you that really wants the property, and they go like, and you can almost barter at this point because you already have like a 5-year triple net with the person that's there, and like now someone comes to you and they go, hey, I'll pay you, twice what that guy is. They're probably not going to do that, but let's just say they do. As the owner, is there a way out of your own contracts to move the other person in if you needed to? Like if it was going to double the amount of money that the property brought in, is that something, or is the leasing equivalent on both ends? Like they're locked in 5 years, you're locked in 5 years. There's no way out.
Depends on how the contract's written, but typically if you're locked in for 5 years, they're locked in for 5 years as well.
Yes.
Now, sometimes when it gets into that like last like renewal time period where they might have like 3 months left and they don't know if they're going to stay or if they're going to go, and like we've had that happen a couple times already this year where they're kind of in the last like 2 months of their lease and they're kind of teetering on the point of like, okay, do I stay, do I go, do I renew? I want a short renewal, it'll give me a bunch of options so I can leave. And we had somebody that was interested, and we're like, hey, there's somebody that's interested, like they want to do a 5-year lease, they're willing to do this. Like, are you guys going to match it or are you going to leave?
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of some of those, like you get to kind of balance it back and kind of let them fight it out for who's going to ultimately take the space. But like if they've got 4 years left, I'm not trying to try to kick them out or try to bring somebody in there. I think that's kind of unethical of trying to find a way to kick them out so that you can try to bring in somebody that's paying higher. So I think some of that you just need to uphold the contract and fulfill it.
I love that. I think that's like the perfect place to get right into like the final questions, because the final question I asked last time, I kind of want to ask you guys again. I think it's going to be really good for your guys' like mindset. And it's good for a lot of people who may be watching this who are in that boat where like $100 might be a lot of extra money, $500 might be a lot of extra money. Like it's the mindset there. So imagine today you wake up and all of your assets are gone. All of the assets are gone. All of your money is gone. You have all the knowledge you've gained up to this exact moment, and I'm going to change it because Dakota got me last time. You have $1,000 in your bank account. What are you going to do to get yourself back to wealth as quickly as possible? Jordan, you start.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I would, if I had all the knowledge, mindset, internal resources that I've accomplished now, I would go network like an SOB. I would get involved in whatever community that I was as far as real estate investing. Just really start trying to get in front of as many people as possible, start building relationships. And for me personally, like I would start to like sell real estate again, for me, because that is something that I found that's a very high income skill, and it allows me time. It allows me to buy my time back. Within the process of selling real estate, I also get exposed to a lot of deals and building all these relationships. I get deals. Like I didn't have a lot of money at the time when I did that first really big deal that launched me forward. I tell people all the time, you are literally one deal away from changing your life forever. Like one deal can do it. It truly can.
Yes.
So yeah, I would definitely just focusing on like getting in front of as many people as I could and just adding as much value, just being super genuine, like not there to take from them, just try to see how I can help and how I can help and what I can do. And, just start just really leveraging my network and getting some sales in. And once I started building up some cash, get some assets, and then get right back to the same place where I'm at now.
I love that. I love that. Tyler, same question. Everything's gone. You're devastated. All of the assets you worked so hard for are gone. Your businesses are gone. You have $1,000 in your account, but you have all the knowledge you have today. How do you do it?
That's a really, really tough question to answer, because I don't know if I could empathize with it, because like it's all a journey on the way, and you learn steps all the way along it. And even though like you take it away, it seems like such a canned answer of just, well, I just do it all again. Where it's hard to say, like I'm struggling to kind of be able to put myself in that situation. Cause I think ultimately, like if I had to restart over, commercial real estate would be kind of the spot I'd start. Or even trying the business, but it's just so different because like having $1,000, like when I started commercial, like I had my engineering job, like it'd be very tough to be like, hey, I'm gonna build this whole business and not have anything to live on. Where if I had probably started all over again, I'd probably maybe go find another engineering job or some sort of job just to be able to support and live on. I don't think with a family of 5, I'd last too long with $1,000. I mean, it'd probably make me to the weekend with the groceries.
No.
But yeah, it's a very tough question where you just almost, I'd want to default to like what the generic one is, but just thinking deeper. Yeah, I don't know where I'd.
Yeah. I don't think your answer is bad, because I think there's a lot of people who are in the boat where they're like, I have $1,000 and I want to become a millionaire. How do I make this $1,000 into $1 million? And it's like, work more, like, like make more money, like, and save your money. Let's say like you're going to go from the investment side of things, like $1,000 truly is not a lot of money when it comes to investing. So it's like, maybe it is working overtime. Maybe it is, like getting a better, higher paying job. Maybe it's getting those skills that we know that we need so that we can get a higher paying job to get on the journey. Like you have the skills, you have the engineering, you have these things. So like, it's not a bad idea. You would go back. And I love Jordan's answer. The one thing that this happened last week, and we're hearing it again this week, which I love, is that it is almost not about the money in a sense, though. It is about the skills, and it's about the relationships, and it's about these things that, I mean, the more we learn about money, the more we learn about investing, the more you just hear over and over and over again. It's that I would be around the right people, and I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I'd start right over. And if I started over, I'd build it back 10 times as fast. And it's like, and if you can understand that, that takes away the scarcity mindset so much, because it's like, these guys who have it, they're not worried about losing it, because they know they could just build it right back. It's an infinite byproduct of their skill set. Once you have the skills, you have the infinite byproduct of that skill set. And that's the beauty of gaining these skills. So I love that. I appreciate those answers, boys.
Yeah, you got to have time, skills, or money.
Yes.
If you have one of the 3 or 2 of the 3, you can be successful.
Let's go.
I just think of it like this. Like if Derrek or Jimmy gained 100 pounds, you know, like there could be nothing that could stop them from freaking getting back to shredding sexy.
Absolutely.
You know? Like,
Amen,
and
baby.
they would do it faster than most people because they've built the resources, skill house, and know-how.
Yes,
and everybody I thought you were talking about 100 pounds of muscle, but that's fine.
You know, maybe.
I'm just kidding.
No, but yeah, exactly. It's a great example. It's like, you know, everybody would think that they're like, Derrek, you gain 100 pounds of fat tomorrow. How are you going to lose it? And like their imagination is, I'm gonna be like, well, there's this secret supplement. You know, take the secrets. I haven't told you guys because it's a secret.
Flex
and
your
like
forehead.
everyone, like, imagine when I asked this investment question, my original thought was that people were gonna be like, well, I would take the money and I'd put it in the specific investment fund that most people that are poor don't know about. And if you knew about it, you know that's where the rich get rich. And like that's how people think about weight loss, how they think about all these things. The truth is it's just there's work, there's skills, and there's knowledge. And if you have them, you win.
Amen.
That's it. I love it.
That's one thing I wanted to talk about too, like just like in and off here is like skills and BS. Like again, belief system. So like I really enjoy like learning people's B5 or non-negotiables or standards that they live their life by, like things that they do, whether it's 5, 6, 7 days a week, every day that makes them and helps them to become what they can be every single day. And so like one of mine is gratitude. And I know that for me, measurably, I have set it to where it's 10 minutes of gratitude every single day, no matter what. And a lot of times it's hours, which is great. But for my 10 minutes, I wanted to kind of dive in with you guys just like on the last part of like, and I would also like maybe love to get on this with you guys again to talk about what yours are. Mm-hmm. Like Jordan with your cold plunge and showers, like you're freaking beast, and like talk about the benefits of the cold shock proteins and everything else. But I know that there's things that allow us and help us to become more and more exceptional every single day. So I would love to dive into that next time. But if you guys are open to it, I'd love to end it like with belief and gratitude. And like if you don't believe in Jesus, like that's okay, just to pay attention to the principles. I think those things will really take you far in life.
Do you want me to dial in?
Dude, could you, bro?
I would love it. You gonna hang up for me?
Yeah. So
I'll go one.
We can give a pause between Derrek and me. So if you guys want to say anything, it's just thank you. Then I'll hang up.
Beautiful. God, I just want to thank you for the journey you've put me on this last year, for the life you've given me, for the blessings of my wonderful wife, my wonderful friends, the wonderful people that I get to spend time with, like days like today. The opportunities that you give me by putting these people in my path, and the blessings that I'm going to share with them, the blessings they're going to share with me. And thank you for the abundant life that's ahead of me, where all the people here, the people ahead of us, we are just going to have and enjoy with such gratitude so many things. And I can't be more thankful for the synchronicity and the duality that you put in every day lately, where it feels like I can sense your presence almost in the good things that are happening in my life. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for these two gentlemen that have put on this beautiful podcast, just really trying to put it out in the world and show not only what is possible, but bring in people to help bring out the light inside of the people listening. You know, I can't even believe how grateful I am just to be able to come on this podcast and know where I've come from and where my parents have come from, and to be able to say the things on here that I'm able to say now. And that is just truly just glimpses of the greatness that you've created inside of me. You know, I know that I come from God, and that is just true abundance and unlimited potential and power. And just to even have the opportunity to try to obtain it, more and more of that every day, and get more and more of a glimpse of who I'm truly called to be. And just getting to even see, you know, the other gentlemen on the call and what their greatness is and how we can all pour into each other. And it's all a stacking. We're all connected, and we just all truly get to live in your name and to show what is possible and be leaders and live by example. And I'm just so thankful for you, God, and just thankful for everyone that listens. I hope they're able to take some actionable items and really make a go in their lives and really become who you have called them to become.
Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for just everything you've given us, and just being able to spend our Saturday talking to these great gentlemen who've all kind of built their own life and really just be able to bring themselves up along with bring others up. And want to thank you for just being able to provide for us and having great family and friends and a support system. And I just ask you that you're able to help make sure that we stay humble and that we keep growing and that we just become good servants of you, Lord, and really just that we help bring up our friends and love our neighbors as ourselves.
Wow. Merciful Lord, I want to second everything that my brothers have diligently noted today, Lord God. We're so thankful. We trade our attitude for gratitude because we're so thankful, Lord. And it's amazing, too, that where focus goes, energy grows, Lord God. And as we think and meditate on these things, Lord God, as we continue to reflect our gratitude in our lives, Lord, when I focus on what I have, Lord, and reflect that to you, I end up having more. Lord God, I realize what I do have, whether it's the fingernails on my fingers and the function of my ankles, Lord God. When I get all the way down to the breath of life that's in my lungs, Lord, I'm getting pretty close. So, Lord, I just thank you so much for these brothers right here that we can all come onto this podcast, Lord God, and reflect your light in these situations and show that, Lord God, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to lament. It's okay to know that there's going to be dark times in this world. And Lord, it's really our choice, our decision, Lord, of how long we're going to stay in that darkness. And if we're going to choose to bring the light with us in that darkness to change it, Lord, because it definitely has been thrust upon us where we have the opportunity to be the light in the darkness for you and with you, Lord God. It's not by ourselves. So Lord, I pray that every single one of us, that we can find the greatness, Lord, that we can find the opportunity in every midst of every problem, Lord God, that we can find you in it and see that it is always an opportunity to show what's possible when we actually team up with you and rock this life out the way that we can. So Lord God, I lastly just pray that we each allow you to establish our steps and make our path straight, Lord God, or that we will do our best to be our best. And when that darkness is here, that we act with the moon, Lord, that we choose to reflect your light in us. Lord, thank you so much again. I pray lastly that we shift into the one gear that you know, and that's forward, never reverse. In prayer, so we pray. Amen.
Love that.
Amen.
Man, love you guys, dude.
Yeah. Thank you, boys. Thank you, boys, for coming on. Me and Jimmy appreciate the hell out of you.
Amen.
You guys are amazing. And we're gonna do this again. Like I said, the way the podcast set up was we're gonna phase people in and out with different groups and different attitudes. And there's so many things I wanted to ask you guys about today, but I need at least 2 decades of time to ask you all of it. So we're gonna keep going with it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Peace, boys.
Love you guys. Clerch.
Love you, Claire.